Good evening, citizens of Earth. I am your friendly neighborhood Plutarian, and welcome back to the adventures of Not Enough Spoons. So today I'm going to be talking about my diagnoses, like the intersection of them, how I've been dealing with them, and some of the things that I'm hoping to do in the future to help other people who are struggling with the same things. So, I guess I'll just jump right in. This is still, I know that my first few videos are probably going to be kind of boring because it's a lot of introductory stuff, like just background knowledge that you'll need to know for when I'm talking about stuff in the future. And I know I haven't posted as frequently as I said I was going to in the last video. Things have been kind of crazy, but I should be able to keep up for now, and I will work on getting through all this introductory stuff as quickly as I possibly can so that we can start talking about fun stuff. Anyway, so my main mental diagnosis is OCD. And I think a lot of people, when they think of someone with OCD, they either think of someone who just likes everything clean all the time, or is like afraid of germs and washes their hands 10 times a day. But OCD is a lot more than that. Kind of where OCD starts is with the obsession side. Your brain finds things to get anxious about, and it thinks about it in like loops. One of my doctors referred to it as like a sticky brain. So it was like, it just stays on the same thing. And then in order to cope with that, your body, your brain convinces your body to do something that it feels like is going to help. And if you don't do that, it feels like something really bad is going to happen. For some people with OCD, it's a very specific thing. It could be like, I need to check the lock on the door 12 times before I leave, otherwise my family is going to die in a car crash. And it sounds crazy. I know it sounds really irrational, but for people with OCD, even when we recognize that this is not true, the horror of that possibility is still just as real. For me, it's not anything specific. It's just like this sense of impending doom if I don't do what I feel like I need to do. But it's still awful, and like it feels like the end of the world. And the thing is, when you give into your compulsion, you get relief momentarily, but then you'll start getting anxious again. Your obsession will come back. You'll have to do the compulsion again. And it just leads to this endless cycle that can cause so much anxiety. For me, one of my really big compulsions is writing things down, because I have an obsession about forgetting things. The idea of forgetting something important is so terrifying to me that I carry paper with me at all times, and I write down the most minuscule things. On days when I'm not having a good day, you can look at the lists I write, and it's just like random stuff, because I feel like if I don't write down every little thing, I'm going to start feeling like I've forgotten something, and then I won't be able to remember if it was important, and if it was important, then what's going to happen? Honestly, nothing, but in my brain, it could be something horrible. And it's just like the world is ending, and sometimes I can't keep up. Sometimes it feels like I have so many thoughts in my head that need to be written down that it starts to feel like my head is too full, and that can cause panic attacks, which I'll get to a little bit later. My other big obsession has to do with my interactions with people. I I'm constantly thinking that everything I do or say is wrong, that I might have upset someone, that, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have said that, this person isn't going to want to talk to me anymore because they might have been offended. And this leads to a compulsion to apologize and over-explain myself, which can cause a lot of issues for me because especially with my compulsion to apologize, sometimes even after I apologize once and the person's like, it's okay, it's not a big deal, I'll keep apologizing over and over and over until they're finally like, Finn, please stop apologizing. And you can tell that they're getting irritated. And then I feel like I need to apologize for apologizing because I feel like my apologizing has upset them. And it just continues. And this is where my OCD actually connects to my borderline personality disorder. Now, people with borderline personality disorder, I guess the stereotype for them is someone with really severe mood swings, gets super angry, is impulsive, does reckless things, and a lot of these do hold true for a lot of people with borderline. Mood swings are a huge part of it. My partner also suffers from it, and but we experience very different things. They have mood swings that change day to day and even hour to hour sometimes. And it's exhausting, I'm sure, for them. It can be like, some days you feel like you've got this, you're going to put in all your effort to try to deal with your issues and to work through things. And then another day, it just feels like there's no way you can do it. And I do suffer from those kind of mood swings. I'm feeling those things. For me, though, it's more of something that happens over time and usually lasts a lot longer. Which will be why I'm fine for a while, and then I start to go downhill and I end up in the hospital for a month and a half because I'm so overwhelmed by not being able to handle my compulsions and my obsessions that I just want to give up. And I feel like there's no hope. And so that contributes. And then the other part of borderline, the one that's especially connected to my OCD, is worrying a lot about people's perceptions of you. Overthinking and ruminating about your interactions with people. So for me, it's kind of like my borderline makes me think these thoughts and then hands it over to my OCD and is like, here, why don't you use this to obsess about and turn into a compulsion? I think that's a good idea. And my OCD is like, okay, just more to make them think about. So those are right now kind of the two things I'm really struggling with. I'm in the process of trying to be accepted into an anxiety and OCD clinic where hopefully I'll be able to go through a full session of CBT, which is supposed to be the best treatment for OCD. Then when I get done with that, my current therapist is going to work with me on DBT, which is the suggested therapy for borderline. If I make it through both of those and I still feel like my OCD is running my life and I have no control of it and I can't take it, which is how I've been feeling for months now, which is why I ended up in the hospital, then I'm going to start looking into a little bit more intensive options. There is a surgery called deep brain stimulation that involves implanting something in your brain that's remote controlled and sends electrical impulses through the parts of your brain that basically contribute to why people with OCD experience OCD the way that they do. It's kind of, it's not a very commonly, it's kind of a new thing, and, you know, I think a lot of people are wary about the idea of it, and it's definitely not something that I'm excited about or that I'm going to jump to from the start, but, you know, from what I've found, it actually has less side effects than ECT, which ECT helps with depression, not OCD. Don't want to give that impression. But I was willing to do ECT when I thought that depression was my main issue, and so I feel like if I really want to deal with my OCD and the traditional routes don't work, you know, I'd rather go through with the risks of the surgery if it means that I could get my life back. So next up, back kind of connected to my OCD, is my excoriation disorder. Basically, I compulsively pick at my skin. It's not connected to a specific obsession. It's just kind of something that my brain tells me to do when I'm anxious, but it does go along with the whole feeling of impending doom if I don't do it, and I have to do it in sets of 100. I can't tell you why, but if I don't do it in a set of 100, it doesn't feel complete. I don't know if you can see them that well, but I have, like, these. They look like burns when they're healing, and they're not enjoyable. You know, I have issues with self-harming because of my anxiety, and this is not self-harm. And I guess if you have, you know, a loved one who experiences something like this, is like an excoriation disorder, or like some people have, I think it's called trichotillomania, which is where they pull out their own hair, you know, don't assume that they're doing it as a self-harm thing. Sometimes it's a compulsive thing, and they can't really control it. And it's not that we get pleasure out of it, it's that we feel like we have to do it. So then, you know, I'm basing these diagnoses off of what I talked to my doctors in the hospital about. So the next one was kind of just generalized anxiety. You know, I kind of have like a full range of just being overly anxious about everything, you know, socially, academically, sorry, computer's falling, just pretty much in every way possible. I get super anxious, overthink everything, and I sometimes shut down because I don't know how to deal with things, or I have panic attacks over absolutely nothing, which kind of leads into my panic disorder. Basically just, I have panic attacks a lot. I try to avoid situations that would cause me panic attacks. Sometimes I have panic attacks that I have no idea like why I'm having them. I don't know of any triggers that set them off. They just happen. I have panic attacks in my sleep. I'm on a medication for that currently, and it does help to an extent. But sometimes, I mean, I'll just wake up in the middle of a panic attack for no reason. And so there's not really kind of what my common triggers for panic attacks are: getting overwhelmed by my OCD, and being overstimulated, which will kind of connect to the next thing.